Nobody wants to see you fall, but everyone wonders if you can get back up. I fell flat on my face 5 times, and each time I got up stronger. Here's the story of those 5 critical moments. If you're watching this video, maybe you too are at a turning point in your life. Comment below where you're watching from and what decision changed your life. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more motivational stories. Now, let me tell you the story of 5 decisions that changed my life. It was a cold November morning in 1972. I was 18 years old, working part-time at Fordham University, with big dreams but little courage. I had dreams of acting, but I was studying medicine, which promised a secure future. My father, Reverend Denzel Washington Sr., always told me, "Son, bread is in the lion's mouth. You need a secure profession in this life." My mother, Lennis, worked at a beauty salon. She came home tired every evening, spending hours trying to remove the chemical smells from her hands. I knew the story of those hands, the story of worn hands working to ensure a better future for her children. That's why the thought of going against them, of pursuing my dreams, filled me with guilt. That morning, I saw a note on the theater club's bulletin board on campus. Auditions for a major production. Normally, I wouldn't pay attention to such things, but that day was different. The night before, I had watched a Sidney Poitier film, and his presence on screen, the power in his words, had stirred something in my soul. I decided to go to the audition, but I didn't tell anyone. I told my friends I was going to the library. When I arrived at the theater building, my stomach was in knots. I looked at the other students waiting in the corridor. All of them seemed confident, experienced, and prepared. I was trembling with just a 1-page dialogue in my hand. Sitting in a small chair in the waiting room, my hands were ice cold. I read my lines over and over, but the words danced before my eyes. When my name was called, I felt as if I had heard someone else's name. I slowly got up and walked toward the stage. 3 people were sitting in front of me: the head of the theater department, the director of the play, and an assistant. "Whenever you're ready, Denzel," said the director. I cleared my throat, took a deep breath, and began. The first sentence went well, the second too, but then a blank formed in my mind. I forgot my lines. Beads of sweat began to roll down my forehead. My knees were shaking. "Can I start over?" I asked. "Sure," said the director, with an impatient expression in his eyes. My second attempt was worse than the first. The words came out of my mouth, but their meanings were lost. Before my performance ended, I saw the theater department head checking his watch. "Thank you, Denzel," said the director. "We'll let you know." As I walked through the campus garden, my face was burning with shame. Never again, I thought. I will never put myself in such a situation again. That evening, lying in my bed, I laughed at myself for giving such a ridiculous performance. But then a thought appeared in my mind. At least you tried. Most people can't even do that. 2 days later, I received an unexpected phone call. I didn't get the role, but director Bob Stone said he saw something in me. He offered me a workshop, 2 hours every Wednesday evening in an old building on the edge of campus. "I think you have talent," he said on the phone, "but it's raw, very raw. We need to work on it." I couldn't sleep that night. I had only one thought in my mind. What if this was my real opportunity? What if this was the turning point of my life? This is where my critical decision moment came. I decided to leave the medical program and dedicate all my time to theater. I had to explain this decision to my family. On Sunday, after returning from church with our family, as we all sat in the living room, I brought up the subject. "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you." My father lowered his newspaper and looked at me over his glasses. "We're listening, son." I want to drop out of school. I mean, the medical department. I want to act." A heavy silence fell over the room. My father went crazy. He threw the newspaper on the coffee table. "Where's the bread?" he asked repeatedly, his voice rising. "How will you make a living with this nonsense? Do you want to be like us, counting every penny to survive?"
My mother sat silently at the kitchen table, with a complex expression on her face. They were both old, they had both worked all their lives, they had both dreamed of a better life for me, And now, in their eyes, I was throwing it all away. "Dad," I said, with a determination I had never felt before, "bread may be in the lion's mouth, but I've decided to be the lion itself." He looked at my face, with anger and disappointment in his eyes. Then he left the room, slamming the door behind him. My mother came to me, held my hand, and quietly said, "He's just worried for you, Denzel." "I know, Mom," I said, "but I have to do this. I feel it inside. If I don't try, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of that moment. This was the first decision that changed my life. Leaving my comfort zone, stepping from security into uncertainty, leaving the path everyone approved of to chart my own course. That Wednesday evening, I went to the workshop. It was an old warehouse building illuminated by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. There were about 10 students inside, all of whom seemed more experienced than me. Bob Stone was a short, bald man, but when he entered the room, everyone looked at him with respect. "Welcome," he said. "Here, you will learn what real acting is. This is not about pretending, it's about being." The first weeks were tough. Every exercise, every improvisation was a struggle for me. While other students easily slipped into characters, I was still performing in a shy and unsure manner. One evening, Bob pulled me aside. "Denzel," he said, "do you know what your problem is?" I shook my head. "You think too much. You try to control too much. Acting isn't about control. It's about letting go. Let yourself go. Allow the flow." That night, walking home, I thought about Bob's words. All my life, I had always tried to control my emotions, my surroundings, my future. But perhaps real freedom began with letting go of control. The following week at the workshop, we did an improvisation exercise. Bob gave me the role of an angry man, a man who discovered his wife had cheated on him. Unlike my previous performances, this time I avoided analysis. I stopped thinking. I just felt. And something changed. I lost myself. Anger, sadness, betrayal, they were all real. When my performance ended, there was silence in the room. I saw a sparkle in Bob's eyes. "There," he said. "That's it. That's real acting." From that moment on, my approach to acting changed. I no longer analyzed my roles. I lived them. Each character, each story became a part of me, and slowly, I began to get small roles in campus productions. The workshops led me to change my major. I left medicine and began double majoring in theater and communications. My father still hadn't accepted the situation, but at least he wasn't openly opposing it anymore. My second big decision was to persist in the face of rejection. After graduating from university, I continued to play small roles in local theaters, small film productions, even commercials. I took every role, every opportunity, but my big break hadn't come yet. Then, one day, I auditioned for a nationwide tour. A play called A Soldier's Play would tour all over America. This was a prestigious production by the Negro Ensemble Company. I gave everything to get the role. Rehearsals, voice work, character analyses, physical preparation. I dedicated myself completely. In the final auditions, director Douglas Turner Ward pulled me aside. "Denzel," he said, "you have talent, but you're not the right person for this role. You don't meet the physical requirements of the role, and you don't fully reflect the character's background." I cannot describe the disappointment I felt at that moment. It was as if someone was sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I had prepared for this role for months. I had studied every detail, tried to understand every nuance, and now, so close to my goal, the door was closing in my face.
That night, in my small motel room in Manhattan, while packing my bags, I made a decision. I wouldn't give up so easily. If this role was the right one for me, I would fight for it until the end. The next morning, I went to the director's office and knocked on the door. Ward's eyes opened in surprise when he saw me. "Mr. Washington, did you forget something?" he asked, raising his eyebrows. "Yes," I said, "I forgot to tell you something. I am determined to get this role. Give me one more chance." He laughed. "Denzel, our decision is final. We gave the role to Marcus. Then let me stand in front of you and read the monologue one more time. Just one more time. If you still feel the same way, I will never knock on your door again." He sighed and said, "Okay, but this is the last time," as he sat in his chair. At that moment, something changed inside me.
I felt a confidence and determination I had never felt before. But this time, I wasn't creating these feelings. They were coming from within me, natural, authentic, real. I read the monologue, but this time, it was different. It was as if I had gotten under the skin of that character. I could feel his breathing, his heartbeat, the pain of his soul. When I finished, there was silence in the room. Ward looked at me for a long time. There was something in his eyes. Was it respect? Was it surprise? I wasn't sure. Then he said, "You got the role." When I heard this sentence, I wanted to fall to my knees. My eyes welled up, but I held back my tears. "Thank you," I said. "I won't disappoint you." "You convinced me, Denzel," Ward said. "But now your real work begins. You'll need to show everyone that you deserve this role." This was the second decision that changed my life. Looking rejection in the face and saying, "No, this is not the end of the story." And that tour was the one that led me to meet the producer who would give me my first big film offer. Those 2 years I spent with A Soldier's Play were the turning point of my career. The play received great acclaim, and I was praised by critics for my role as Peterson. And finally, I received my first offer from Hollywood, a film called Carbon Copy. The role wasn't big, but it was a start. My first day on the film set was exciting. Costume fittings, makeup tests, set introductions, all of it was new and fascinating. But it was also scary. On a theater stage, you can give a performance fueled by the energy of the moment. But on a film set, everything is broken down into pieces. A scene is shot multiple times, from different angles, with different approaches. You have to calibrate your acting, maintain your energy. My first shoot was a disaster. I forgot lines, missed marks, looked at the cameras. The director was patient, but I could see the doubt in the eyes of some crew members. They seemed to say, "Who is this guy? Why is he here?" That night in my hotel room, looking in the mirror, I promised myself, "Tomorrow, you'll be better. And the next day, even better. You'll improve a little each day until you're perfect." And that's what I did. Every day I became a little more relaxed, a little more confident. When the film was finished, I wasn't satisfied with my performance, but at least I had made a start. And more importantly, I had learned how the film world worked. Carbon Copy wasn't a big box office success, but it introduced me to the industry. And soon after, I received an offer that would change my life. The role of Dr. Philip Chandler in NBC's new series, St. Elsewhere. This was a regular job, shooting 5 days a week, a guaranteed salary, and most importantly, national visibility. The 6 years I spent with the show deepened my understanding of acting. Living with a character for a long time, exploring his world, his story, his evolution, this taught me the subtleties of the art of acting. But at the same time, I felt a danger. Playing the same role for a long time can put an actor into a comfortable routine, dull their creativity. My third big decision was the moment I decided to continuously educate myself. We were in the 4th season of St. Elsewhere. I was in my mid-30s. I was now becoming recognized in Hollywood. I was getting good roles, earning good money. One day, I was having dinner with an old actor friend, Morgan Freeman, at a restaurant. "Denzel," he said, pointing at a piece of meat with his fork, "be careful. This industry wants to put you in a mold. It's easy to be someone who plays the same role in different films, but a real actor constantly challenges himself, renews himself." When I returned home, I looked at my filmography. I realized Morgan was right. My role in St. Elsewhere provided me with comfort, but it was also identifying me with one character. I had begun to play a certain type of character. It was comfortable and safe, but I wasn't growing. That night, I made a decision to challenge myself in every new role, to step out of my comfort zone, but more importantly, to continue educating myself not just in acting, but in every area of life. I started reading Shakespeare, one sonnet every night. It was difficult at first, the language was old, the themes complex, but over time, I began to hear the music in the words, to understand the depth of the themes. Shakespeare's characters reflected the complexity and contradictions of the human soul with incredible depth. I took piano lessons. As my fingers clumsily moved over the keys, I tried to learn the mathematics and emotion of music. Playing a melody correctly was like performing a scene correctly. Rhythm, tone, emotion, all together.
I read history books. I learned about different periods, different cultures, different lifestyles. Each history book was like background research for a potential role. I met people from different cultures. I listened to their stories, shared their experiences. Each new person was like a potential character study. By constantly challenging myself, I tried to learn something new every day. This deepened not only my acting, but also my humanity. Now, on stage or in front of the camera, I wasn't just someone reciting lines, but someone sharing a real experience. This decision made a big difference in my career. After St. Elsewhere ended, I began to take different types of roles. The role of Trip in Glory, the lead in Malcolm X, the lawyer in Philadelphia, each different, each challenging, each role growing me as an actor. And finally, in 1989, I won my first Oscar with the film Glory, Best Supporting Actor. As I stood on the stage, holding the statuette in my hand, I thought about my long journey. My father's doubts, my mother's silent support, my struggles in the workshop days, my rejections, my persistence, my decision to continuously educate myself. In my speech, I said, "This award goes to everyone who follows their dreams. Believe in your dreams, work for them, make them real." My fourth big decision was always putting my family before my career. This is not a decision often seen in Hollywood. In my early 40s, my career was at its peak. I was receiving many film offers, winning awards, being recognized worldwide. My wife Pauletta and I had 4 children, John David, Kathia, Malcolm, and Olivia. I was struggling to protect the time I spent with them. Film shoots, promotional tours, award ceremonies, they were all stealing from my family time. One day, a great director, Steven Spielberg, invited me to a 6-month shoot, a film called Amistad. It was a great role, a prestigious project, but the shoot would be in New England, while I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I wouldn't see my family for 6 months. Just then, the date of my son's John David's graduation ceremony was announced. It conflicted with the shooting schedule. I called the producer and explained the situation. "I'm sorry," I said, "but I can't be on set that day. It's my son's graduation." "Denzel," he said, "this is a big project. Maybe we can adjust the schedule, but there's no guarantee. You don't want to miss this opportunity." I needed to think. I was caught between a project that could be a big step in my career and an important moment for my family. But inside, I had already made my decision. "No," I said, "I will be at my son's graduation ceremony. This is non-negotiable." I lost the role. Spielberg understood, but the schedule couldn't be changed. The role went to another actor. Amistad was well received and received Oscar nominations. Sometimes I wonder, what if I had played that role? But then I remember my son's graduation ceremony. When he stepped on stage, when he received his diploma, and when he looked for me in the crowd, the pride in his eyes when I applauded him as he received his diploma, no Oscar could have given me that feeling. This was the fourth decision that changed my life. Clearly setting my priorities, redefining the true meaning of success, seeking an inner satisfaction and peace rather than the success that appears from the outside. As the years passed, I reaped the fruits of this decision. My children grew up and charted their own paths, but they always knew I was there for them. My relationship with my wife strengthened, deepened. My career may have missed some opportunities, but I never regretted it, because at the end of the day, what is the meaning of a success you can't share with your loved ones? My fifth and perhaps most important decision was the moment I decided to control my own story. I was in my late 50s. I had made many successful films, won awards, but I still felt an emptiness inside. Working in Hollywood for years can turn you into a machine. One project ends, another begins. One role is completed, another comes. A constant cycle, a constant flow. But where to? Why? I began to ask myself these questions. One day, I received an incredible offer. They wanted to make a film about my life, a biographical film where another actor would portray me. A big studio, a big budget, a big promotional campaign. Offers came, figures flew around, but a voice inside me said no. This was my story, and if it was to be told, it should be told on my terms, not under the bright lights of Hollywood, but in my own quiet thoughts. That night, I started writing, not a film script, but a play. A stage play telling my own story in my own words. A play that told not just my successes, but also my failures, my fears, my weaknesses, my regrets, and my hopes. Writing was a purification process for me. Each word liberated my soul a little more. Each scene opened a part of my being to the world. When the play was finished, I didn't show it to anyone. I put it in my drawer and forgot about it, or I thought I had forgotten. But in a corner of my mind, that play continued to live. It disturbed me. It made me think. It challenged me. A year later, I took the play out of the drawer. I read it again, edited it, expanded it, and finally, I sent it to a small theater company without specifying my name, just as a writer. 2 weeks later, I received a phone call. Karen Williams, the artistic director of the theater, said she really liked the play. "I rarely see a text this honest, this open," she said. "I'd like to meet the writer." "I am the writer," I said quietly. There was silence on the phone. Then Karen asked, "Denzel Washington?" Her voice filled with surprise. "Yes," I said, "but please don't tell anyone. I want this play to be evaluated on its own merits, not by my name." Karen promised and scheduled the play as 7 nights, without specifying the author's name. Rehearsals began. Actors were chosen. Young, unknown, talented actors. I occasionally attended rehearsals, just as an observer. No one knew who I was. The play told the story of 7 critical moments in a man's life. 7 nights, 7 decisions, 7 turning points. Each scene reflected a moment from my real life, but changed, fictionalized, dramatized.
When opening night came, I was tense and excited. I sat in the back rows, pulling my hat down over my eyes. The lights went out, the curtain opened, and the play began. In the first scene, the main character, my alter ego, sat alone in a dark room. "What is success?" he asked the audience, directly to me. "Applause? Awards? Money? Or perhaps, at the end of our lives, being able to look back and say, 'I did the right thing'?" When I heard these words, my eyes welled up. My own words, from someone else's mouth, were coming back to me. It was as if I was in front of a mirror, but the mirror was showing me not just my face, but my soul. As the play progressed, I watched the audience's reactions. They laughed, they cried, they thought. My story was touching them. My most private, most intimate thoughts were finding an echo in their hearts. In the final scene, the main character appeared on stage as an old man. He had a photo album in his hand. He opened the album and looked at the photos inside. His family, his friends, important moments of his life. Then he turned to the audience and said, "This is success," he said, "to love and be loved, to remember and be remembered, to leave a mark in the world, small as it may be, and to be able to say when leaving, 'Yes, I lived a good life.'" When the curtain closed, the hall erupted with applause. They gave a standing ovation. I quietly got up from my seat and went out the back door. That night, in my hotel room, I looked out the window for a long time. My soul felt lighter, as if I had dropped a burden I had been carrying for a long time. The play was staged in the small theater for 6 weeks. Critics showered it with praise. There were speculations about who the writer was, but no one knew the truth. And I enjoyed this anonymity. This time the applause was not for my face, but for my words. At the end of the 6th week, Karen called me. Denzel, she said, we can't hide it anymore. People want to know who you are. We have to reveal the truth. I thought about it. Maybe the time had come. Maybe it was time to take the final step to fully own my own story. Okay, I said, but on one condition. The last show will be mine. I will perform it. Karen was surprised. You? But you haven't rehearsed. You don't know the lines. I laughed. Karen, this is my story. I wrote every word. I lived every scene. No need for rehearsals. And so, in the last show of the play, I took the stage. The hall was full. In the front rows sat my family, Pauletta, my children, and even my father, 85 years old, in his wheelchair. The lights went out, the curtain opened, and I began to tell my own story. That night on stage, I wasn't just an actor. I was there as a storyteller, a witness, a human being. The words came out of my mouth naturally, as if created at that moment. Every scene, every emotion, every thought, they were all real. They were all me. In the final scene, in the role of the old man, when I opened the photo album, the photos inside were real. My photos, my family, my life. When I turned to the audience, my eyes were filled with tears. This is success, I said, my voice trembling. To love and be loved. To remember and be remembered. When the curtain closed, the hall gave a standing ovation. But this time, the applause felt different. This time, they were applauding not just a performance, but a person, a life, a truth. Backstage, my family was waiting for me. Pauletta, as always, was the first to hug me. I'm proud, she whispered in my ear. My children also hugged me, each affected differently by the play. Then my father approached in his wheelchair. There was a strange expression on his face, a mixture of pride, surprise, and maybe a little regret. Son, he said, holding my hand with his trembling hand, I always said bread is in the lion's mouth, but you danced with the lion. My tears flowed. I held my father's hand and said, thank you, Dad. I'm proud to be your son. This was the fifth decision that changed my life. Controlling my own story, speaking with my own voice, sharing my own truth. It was a decision that cared not about what others thought about me, but what I thought about myself. So my dear friends, that's the story of the 5 big decisions that changed my life. Leaving my comfort zone, persisting in the face of rejection, continuously educating myself, always putting my family first, and controlling my own story. All of these decisions were in fact different reflections of a single decision. To play the lead role in my own life. To live according to the voice of my heart, not according to others' expectations. You too will need to make similar decisions in your life. Perhaps right now, you're on the brink of such a decision. You're thinking of leaving your comfort zone. You need to persist in the face of rejection. You dream of improving yourself. You need to make a difficult choice about your family, or it's time to tell your own story. Don't be afraid. Even if you fall, you will learn to get up, and each time you will get up stronger. I am now 78 years old. My hair has turned white, lines have formed on my face, but in my soul, I still have the excitement and curiosity of that 18-year-old boy. I'm still learning, still growing, still open to the surprises of life. Looking back, I see my films, I see my awards, I hear the applause, but more importantly, I see the decisions I made. At every crossroads, at every turn, I see the moments when I had the courage to choose my own path. And these decisions, these choices, made me the person I am today. Finally, I want to tell you something. The key to success in life lies not in what you have, but in who you choose to be. Money goes, fame fades, applause stops, but your character, the decisions you make, stay with you forever. Every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? And then make the decisions that person would make. I made my decisions, and with each one, I became a little more liberated. I grew a little more. I became a little more myself. Now, I ask you, are you ready to make the decision that will change your life? If you like this video, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you also had a decision that changed your life? Where are you watching from? In which city? At what age are you watching this video? I'd like to know. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more motivational stories. With love and respect to all of you, see you in the next video.